Hey, it's Matt. I'm back again. I've got yellow-crowned night heron this time. This is another small, transparent watercolor, only 10 by 7 inches. I got photo reference for this guy at Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge on Sanibel Island in Florida on a trip there with my brother Ted. And this particular yellow-crowned night heron was super cooperative and up super close, so it made for a lot of good photos. So in doing this, I didn't have to frisk it off the bird because it was such a big area. So I went about mixing a bunch of different greens and then bringing those onto the paper, onto dry paper, because I wanted a nice saturated color. And I just used a number 6 round brush and just kind of made a mottled pattern across the whole background. And once I had the basic colors in, I started dropping in more of the other pigments, trying to get intentional back runs where the pigments would mix on the page and kind of creep across and get some sharp borders. Once I was happy with the overall look of things, I hit it with the hairdryer and then went about putting in some other passes where I'd pick out hard edges to put on top of some of the soft ones. Kind of carving out some leafy areas that I thought would make sense as a background. And I started bringing in some blues at this point because I knew that the bird itself had some bluish tones in the plumage, and I thought this would help it blend in better and match the background as things developed. Later, you can see me mixing some oranges and bringing those in. At this point, it looks a little odd, but some of this was done because the bird has a bright orangey red eye, and I wanted to bring in some of those tones to have it play with the background as well. So when I did put in that orange, it wouldn't be completely lonely. And once I had the background kind of dropped in, I started putting in the lightest local colors of the bird. And this again was with a number 6 round brush. Starting, very transparent on dry paper, and just starting to put in glazes to suggest the feathering of the bird. I used to do a lot of bird portraits like this, where it's just the bird's head, not the entire bird, and I haven't done one in a while, and it was kind of fun to go back to. In the past, I'd often done the bird portraits as larger 18 by 24 paintings, and those had a different presence about them as opposed to a smaller one like this. I think in the larger size, they're a little more imposing, and it kind of makes you want to look at the bird more as an individual rather than just a specimen of that species. So it was a little different doing a smaller one like this, but it was still fun. I kind of have shied away from doing things that don't fit on my flatbed scanner because it's a hassle to get the larger paintings scanned, and they take a lot longer. So if I can finish a lot of the smaller paintings more quickly, and they're easier to scan, and they're easier to store, they take a lot less time. So it's lately I've been doing smaller pieces. And you can see my photo reference on the left. The background was a bit different, kind of mottled, and I wanted to kind of push the background, make it less prominent than it is in the photo. And in the end, I wasn't completely happy with the way the background was working, and you'll see later that I'll kind of readdress that and darken a portion of it, just to push some of it back so it recedes more. I think at this point I thought it was just too evenly modeled, and it kind of bugged me as I worked on the rest of the painting. What was interesting about this black-crowned night heron was that it has a lot of different challenges in it, in that we have this, super glossy eye, and then we have this kind of crackly beak with all these textures on it. Then we have the straight plumes of the body, and then we have the, plumes with the black and white on the back and on the wing. And so it kind of had a lot of different challenges about it to go through. And they're all fun to do, but it kind of stretches you to try to get command of a variety of these different textures in watercolor. The eye in particular was kind of fun to do. Years ago I took a course in ophthalmic photography, and in the process of taking that class I kind of changed the way I was doing eyes, and I thought more about them as, you know, these as a structure rather than just a shape. And so I try to think about how the light's moving across that, you know, fairly round surface, and how it's going to reflect, and how it reflects depends on your lighting. You know, if we have strong lighting, if we have overcast lighting, we'll have a more diffused highlight. And sometimes you see, like in this case, a reflection of the scene in the sky in the eye, and that makes it much more complicated to do and pull off. And then there are little things like just how the shadow travels of the upper eyelid travels across the eye tells so much about the shape of the eye. And then there are little details about the way the light flows through it and lights up the opposite side of the iris. And you have this little pupillary frill that's the shape of the iris's flat disc, and then some of that's being refracted by the lens of the eye, or excuse me, the cornea of the eye. So it has all these neat things going on that you think about as you paint it and try to make sense out of it as a structure. Maybe I'm thinking too much and I should just paint it, but that's kind of what's going on in my mind as I do these, and it makes them kind of fun to do. I think part of what attracted me to this as a portrait was that there was some nice motion and changes in shape. So we have these, you know, contrasty feathers of the wing with the blacks and the whites, and then we have this big juicy, you know, almost an anime eye, you know, just kind of a seemingly very different color than anything else, kind of dominating the view. And then you have this crackly beak with all these little flakes and, you know, personality to it that has all these little things to render. So it kind of had a lot of areas of interest and nice motion to it. I think including those, here I am painting over darkening the background so it would kind of recede better and have a little less uniformity. I was so much happier once that was done. So late in the painting, I was mostly picking out little dark details and sharpening up edges of the feathers before I thought it was done. This is a fun painting to work on. I like the little slightly yellowish white feathers on the yellow crown. That really makes for a neat painting. Well, thanks for watching. Again, this is a yellow crowned night heron, 10 by 7 inch transparent watercolor. If you get a chance, leave a comment or visit the blog and the website.